on skills powered by Enginuity. So we are in Belfast this week looking at how different organisations are trying to solve the skills crisis. And I've got two brilliant guests for you today. We've got Elita Frid and Susan HayesCulleton. So thanks for joining me. Before we get into the brilliant work you two are doing together, can I just get a bit on your backgrounds and why you are so passionate about skills? Elita, kick things off for us.
Well, first and foremost, I originally come from Canada. I've been living in Belfast for 19 years, and the majority of that time has been involved in STEM outreach of some sort. So originally I started out, I was running a social enterprise called Science Stars, which was a mobile STEM lab for children in nursery and primary school. But from that, I felt that I wanted to do more. I wanted to delve into the world of secondary, just so I could follow students along that whole journey until leaving school. And the opportunity came when I joined Mega as an industry and education engagement manager. And in my role, I am able to support students from primary all the way to secondary in getting them interested in STEM subjects, particularly in the area of engineering, promoting it through a variety of different initiatives such as projects, hands-on projects, STEM workshops in the classroom, but also hands-on projects within industry, supporting students through mock interviews, delivering presentations about the variety of job roles within the manufacturing and engineering sector. And in particular, the latest one is the Engineering Across the Border project with Susan HayesCulleton that we started last year, which we're going to delve into further. But my passion comes from the fact that when I was younger, I didn't have anybody steering me down the STEM route. I always loved science as a child. When I got to secondary, it kind of fell by the wayside. We didn't have the same sort of education that you do nowadays, where a lot of things are more hands-on. It was all very much textbook, found it very boring, and didn't have the role models to lead me down that route, particularly the girls in my class. So when I left school, I decided that I wanted to be that person that I didn't have growing up. So that kind of led me down that route.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's loads I want to come to on that. But Susan, tell me then about you and your passion for skills.
So among several things that we do, I am CEO of a business called Savvy Teens, and we run work experiences for teenagers. And where that came from is that a lot of companies like Harland and Wolff, where we are today, or a variety of them right across both of our islands, they want to do something to give teenagers an insight into the world of work. But what do you do with them? Like, what do you do with teenagers? What sort of hands-on ideas can you give them? And also, of course, Steph, as well, people are busy.
Yeah.
So when you want to run a work experience and people are trying to do whatever they're trying to do, it can present a productivity problem. So anyway, what we did was we created work experiences for companies where we go in and then we run them. We run the work experiences themselves end to end. And what that showed us is we have a lot of luxuries when we do that. Number one is we don't have a dedicated curriculum, which means that we can adapt and change as we want.
Yeah.
The second thing is we don't have the pressure of an exam at the end. It's all about giving the teenager an experience of what it's like to work and bring the best out in them, which is basically what work experience is supposed to do. But the third thing is we can weave in very modern ideas as well, like using AI or thinking about automation or what teamwork is like when you really face consequences. And a lot of that, like I've written textbooks, I've written 5 textbooks, and in each case, I see what it's like for a government to decide on a curriculum. Then the curriculum has to come up with an exam.
Yeah.
Then you've got the textbooks that are written. Think about how fast things are moving underneath all of that at the same time, Steph. So as a result, what we can do then is we can say, right, what does the world of work look like today? How do we design an experience that is future focused, but rooted in the present today for teenagers that's very experiential? And that's where we can really meet skills where it matters.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I mean, I imagine, like you say, if you're kind of doing the work for the business as well, that's so much more attractive for more businesses to want to get involved, to be able to offer them, because that's the problem, isn't it? A lot of kids and schools that can't find places that will do work experience because it's a kind of regulatory and bureaucratic nightmare for organisations.
Or else it's just a productivity challenge, because I see this all the time. Let's say that I'm an accountant in one of the big 4 and I'm really, really good at audit, or I'm really, really good at tax. Does that mean that I'm really good at showing a teenager how to do it? And also, particularly during busy season, they don't have time for this. They might have great intentions. But whereas instead we're dedicated solely to taking care of the teenagers wherever we are. And it's the same in engineering across the border and the other initiatives that we run. So what differentiates us when a teenager comes in into the workplace is we're there simply to take care of them and show them what that workplace is like or that industry is like, help them understand more about themselves, and also give them actual things to do where we're focused solely on them. That's the difference, Steph.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. So tell me about Engineering Across the Border then. So this is you guys working together. Elita, tell us what it is.
So Engineering Across the Border is a collaborative project that we designed just last year. It's funded through Intertrade Ireland. We were grateful to get the support from them because this was the first time that they had supported a school initiative. So up until now, they've just supported SMEs with cross-border attracting and trade, things like that. So this project, we joined forces. Susan can probably tell the history of it better, where she met somebody from my team. We spoke about the possibility of collaboration because of the similarities, but also being able to pull our skills together in having worked with students already in a project that would see schools working with industry, both in the north and in the south of Ireland, in what we have created as Engineering Across the Border. So it is a project where students carry out a design thinking project. Susan, I'm going to pass it over to you because you're better.
So what Engineering Across the Border is designed to do is to match companies and schools together where there is an output that they focus on. So we'll say we have a school whereby the teacher teaches a module in the classroom, and that bit is absolutely key because it involves the teacher and the school and the community that's there. And then as the students do each part of the project, then mentors in a company gives them feedback.
Right.
So therefore they get a sense of what it's actually
Real
like.
life.
Oh, absolutely real life, but also they're getting insights from people who are working in this area. So their job is to look at a problem that a company has and that is designed by the company. So they get a sense of what it's like to really think about whether it is efficiency or process or coming up with a new product or coming up with a new marketing campaign, whatever it might be. And then as they're going through each element of that project, then they're using the design thinking process. So before we ever start, Steph, number one, they now have a relationship with a company. Number two, they're using design thinking, not learning about it, but actually using it. And number three, they get an understanding of what problems are actually like in the workplace. And then as they go along, they have the support of the teacher on a day-to-day basis. And then we have an app and we have a book that goes along with it. And they're getting feedback then from industry and the opportunity to present it to showcase.
And does this, because one of the biggest pressures that often I've found working with schools is when it's additional to curriculum stuff, it's harder to fit it in because that's not the bit that gets the Ofsted inspections and all that jazz. So is this like in addition, but it helps the students with it?
And now here's where you're now going to meet. Here's now where you're going to meet a difference.
I'll fill in here.
Both sides of the border. So in the south, it's not additional.
Yeah.
Because transition year is a year in secondary school in the south of Ireland that's dedicated towards students going to school and then them studying different modules while they're there. So teachers have a challenge here, Steph, which is, let's say that I was to give to you as a teacher, you've got 2 classes a week to focus on STEM or focus on engineering between September and Christmas. How do you fill that? And that can be up to you. Whereas what Engineering Across the Border is literally a curriculum, it's everything. So it's not additional, it is embedded, it's actually filling that space. Now that's what happens in the south.
Yeah.
In the north, it's different.
So in the north, we've had to be very creative. And I suppose that in creating this project, we have had to look at the differences in education for the 2 jurisdictions. And that's where the challenge, but also the joy of trying to be strategic and making things work well together, in that we were looking at year 13 students, so lower 6 students here. We knew that we couldn't take a whole class, but that we could select, say, up to 8 students to be a part of this project. So fewer students, slightly older students, and so that's how we ran it, with 8 students per school. This year, I've been chatting with some schools about the possibility of making it part of their enrichment class. So enrichment class is like extracurricular. And we have a school that has been granted the permission to make this project part of their enrichment class. So now those students will get the designated time, and it will allow for more students, if they wish, to take part of in the project. So I think last year, because we were just starting out, it was sort of all that sort of pilot stuff. But now that they see that it ran through, we ran it, it was successful, and we've been secured the funding for next year. Now we can approach schools and show them the layout and explain how it's going to work. and see about other schools getting it into the enrichment program.
Whereas then in our case, transition year, you can have all the class involved. In fact, that's the intention. But this, you're now starting to get a sense, Steph, of how we really needed to work together, because we were dealing with two different education systems. And also TYs, transition years tend to be younger in comparison to
What year do you do? So tell me more, because I know nothing about that transition year.
Okay.
So, and I imagine lots of people listening and watching this won't know either. So
okay, so
how old are you when you do it? And
about 16.
Right.
So in the south there is the junior cert that you do round about 15.
Yeah.
Then you have a year. Now around about 92% of students do it. In some schools it's mandatory, in some schools it's not. When I did it in my school, it wasn't mandatory. I chose to do it. And then you have 2 years after that, fifth and sixth year, and in sixth year then you do your leaving cert. But along the way,
in a way, it's like a gap year in the middle of your
yes,
studies.
but in school,
Yes.
and that's the difference, is that it's a structured year. So a lot of students then they need to go and find work experience. Tying back to where the idea for Savvy Teens came, some of them go on cultural exchanges, or they might be doing a musical, or they might be doing other things. And then there's also like English and maths and science class and all that, as well as taster modules then for their choices for later on. So but as we worked together, it was just intriguing how different things were, because even the subjects that a student could do for A-levels was different to the subjects that students could do for Leaving Cert. So, and this is where the cross-border element came from, is it wasn't just about us working together geographically, we really needed to understand where the other one was coming from.
Yeah.
And then also, like, transition that into helping teachers to talk to each other, both sides of the border, about what things are like. Mentors the same, companies the same, schools the same, and us the same.
It's so interesting because when I was at school, I went to a school which was a bit of an experiment one, which was called the City Technology College, and it was very much it was sponsored by industry, and so industry set a lot of our work, which is similar to what you're saying. So like we did real life projects for like our design technology and things like that, which made me love engineering. And then when I finished all my qualifications there, I did a year in industry, which sounds a bit like your transition year, where I went to work in industry for a year before I went to uni. And for me, that is the difference between me not doing engineering and doing, going into that sector. I went to work for Black & Decker for a while. It was that gave me it, because as you've pointed out, Elita, you get that love of STEM, don't you, in the younger years, and then that can often disappear when you get to the very structured, academic, pure, textbook stuff, and not more the hands-on stuff, because it doesn't have the same esteem quite often as the academic stuff. So are you seeing it make a difference then in terms of how people feel?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, 100%. Because first of all, the subject that's taught and the work that's done, there's a gap between them, because what's happening in industry is moving really, really quickly. Yeah. Secondly, as well, and Elita's already alluded to this, is that it can perceptively be very male dominated, and girls and young women need to see where they fit in. Yeah. And there's loads and loads of scope for that, but it's actually getting in and doing it. But particularly as well, I will say an acute issue. And it's unfortunate that this is the case, is sometimes I see girls going through our work experiences in the south, but then the subject may not be on offer in their school afterwards, because remember, this is a choice. And that's where they hit a blockage. Like what you're describing, the way was paved for you. Yes. Imagine if the way was blocked. And not by any intention, but instead, if we're trying to focus on having this science or this business subject or whatever. And also, when I mentioned the textbooks earlier, I've written economics textbooks as well. So I know what it's like when you have the business industry trying to also raise awareness about their subjects. So it's really important, I think, that teenagers today get a sense of the breadth of careers that are out there. And also, we shouldn't just be relying on teachers and career advisors to do this, because it's hard.
And how would they know all the jobs?
For a start, how would they know all the jobs? And I think sometimes we can place unrealistic expectations on them. But also, people in that realm are also focusing a lot on mental health. They're focusing on an awful lot of other things that are going on in schools, like that can be very, very stretched. So when we, by working together, can connect industry and school together with a view to helping everybody by understanding all their problems and designing a structured experience where they can meaningfully connect to make a difference, like that's where the magic happens.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, this is music to my ears, what you're telling me, because there is such a huge problem with, as you say, people not seeing what the world of work looks like when they're in school, and how are they ever meant to know what a job is really, apart from whatever their family members might do? So what's it been like in terms of engagement with industry? And
I think for us, I think it was great that we already had a network of companies that we could pick and choose from. And what I'm seeing for our students, more the challenge is actually getting their foot in the door. And that's why the likes of work experience programs and this project, to allow them that opportunity to get in and see what it's like and make those connections. And we saw students inquiring further after the project about getting into other companies that they hadn't worked with, but they were now aware of because of the final showcase.
Find out what supply chain is and everything else.
Requesting work experience over the summer after the project. So and that was what one of the things that I had wanted to make sure that we did was try to expand on the project afterwards, to continue with it, that it's not just a flash in the pan, that there were actual opportunities for the students once they completed the project, because they'd be near finishing school. So some were most were year 13. We did have a few year 14 who would have been finishing, who are finishing now. Yeah. So that just kind of closes that length of time between them finishing school and then the opportunity for them to go directly there if the companies provided that opportunity. And the companies did see that as a potential. And we always talk about the win-wins, what's in it for the company, what's in it for the students. And that was very much from the get-go something that we wanted to make sure to do, to allow for them to get their foot in the door. Yeah. So we've seen that happen.
And what's the main aim now? What's your kind of, where do you want to get to with it?
Well, first of all, this year, as Elita mentioned, the funding was approved to go forward for the programme again, and it's doubling in scope. So brilliant. To give you more of an insight into who's behind that, so Intertrade Ireland is a cross-border body. It is a product of the Good Friday Agreement, and it is designed to help companies, particularly SMEs, to trade north and south. Yeah. And so I am very familiar with Intertrade Ireland, having run a company in the south for the past 15 years. And so when we approached them, as Elita said, it was the first time that they were that they were funding a project like this. But particularly the rationale for that is that they need to provide a talent, they need to understand the plight, I suppose, of companies north and south. And one of the big challenges is a labour shortage, a skills shortage, a mismatch between skills and the jobs and so on like that. And we were going to do something really meaningful for that. So after we did what we did last year, and then we went back to them this year, we said we want to double in scope, we want to expand, to have more schools, more companies, more cross-border elements, more integration between the schools themselves and the companies themselves, etc. So we would love, Steph, to expand this much further than just across the island of Ireland. We would love, we have a model now that works. And also as well, it's important to say it's not easy to get this right. And I'll tell you particularly where the pinch points come from is teachers are constantly bombarded with people like me saying, here's something that can be really useful, why don't you go and teach it? And I naively did that years and years ago with a different initiative, where you go to teachers and say, here's something, I know you'd love to teach this, wouldn't it be great if your students knew? They're constantly hearing that stuff. They're constantly hearing, and they have enough to do without solving industry's problems as well. With something like this, it is listening to the challenges that they have, like, what do we do with them in transition year? How do I get ahead of what's going on in employment, etc.? The second thing as well that can be a real pinch point is structure. Is a lot of companies have great intentions of doing something like, we'll go in and we'll speak in the school, or how can we mentor your students? But actually what we've designed is an ecosystem where there's a structure for them to follow. As the students do the work, the mentors review it and give feedback. They come up with the design thinking problem in the first place. So we ask them to bring their strengths to the table. We're not asking them to come up with a vision. We've done that. Yeah. And then the third thing is that there has to be a lot of support for everybody involved. Whether it is something as simple as, what are we supposed to do next, to, like, a company has come to us and say, when we're organising the site visit, what should we do? What type of things would engage teenagers? We have the answers to all of that. Yeah. And they're difficult to get right. So you can have great intention, you can have people, you can have money, you can have resources, but it's actually understanding the other person's point of view and knowing what the next step is to take. That's what we've built. That's the fundamentals of all this.
It's so true, because I talk to lots of businesses who are constantly saying to me, we just need to get into schools more. And I'm like, no, there isn't any time for that. Teachers, as you say, are doing a million things, and you're right, it's it's about thinking of how can you lessen their load in a way and make things easier for them, and that's exactly what you've set up.
And usually what the next thing is that you'll hear after that is, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to Google a list of schools and I'm going to get their contact. And I mean, there's people who are listening to us today saying, I was going to do that. Well, what's wrong with that? There's great intention behind that, but it's structure and tying into an ecosystem that already works. And so that's the thing. We've done an awful lot of the heavy lifting now. So definitely the goal would be grow it in scope.
So how can people help? If there are people who are listening, watching this and just thinking, right, this is what we need to be part of, what can they do? Or just anybody, how can anyone help?
Well, for the manufacturing and engineering sector, I would say join Mega. There's so much on offer. For other industries, the potential is still there. There's no limit on, because it is a structure that works across all industries. If anybody wants to reach out to us to get involved, this year we are running it with 6 schools in the north, 6 in the south, 6 companies in the north and 6 in the south. Not mega specific, and not in any particular region. I know that we're primarily based in Mid-Ulster, but we work all over Northern Ireland. So,
and just to say, MEGA is manufacturing, engineering, growth and advancement.
That's right. Yeah. It's the acronym is what our aim basically is there. So it's a good name, isn't it? Yeah.
And to add to that, I would say if there are people who are listening today and they're not based in Northern Ireland or they're not in the south, like we'd love to bring this model to other parts of the UK, but also further afield as well. So the website is Engineering Across the Border, and people can see what the initiative is all about there. And absolutely, reach out to us. We'd love to have a conversation. And like I say, it's a model that works where we've ironed out an awful lot of things through our collective experience. And let's see what we can make happen.
This is really exciting. I love it. I think you're going to get loads of people contact you after this.
Go for it. Bring it on.
Yeah, I like it. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. But that's it from us and Steph on Skills, powered by Enginuity. Now, if you do want to get in touch with us about any of it as well, you can email us. It's sospod@enginuity.org. And don't forget to follow us however you listen to your podcasts, and then that will make sure you never miss an episode. But that's it from us. Bye-bye.